Before you can create a healthy relationship with others, you first have to create a healthy relationship with yourself. Welcome to Let's Talk About It with your host, Dr. Janie Lacy. Janie is a nationally respected psychotherapist, and on this show, she and her featured guests will help you discover and break patterns in your life that can contribute to self-sabotage and unhealthy relationships. Now, here is Dr. Janie Lacy.
Welcome to another episode of Let's Talk About It with Janie Lacy. Did you know that the one thing all successful people have in common is failure? They made films no one wanted to see, they wrote blogs no one wanted to read, created music no one wanted to hear, but they kept going all the way to success. Because only when we face defeat do we know what we can overcome. Only when we can put aside excuses are we ready to try again. In Chasing Failure, our special guest, Ryan Leak, takes us on a journey to show us how chasing failure may be your quickest way to success. Ryan Leak is a husband to Amanda and father to Jackson and Roman. After that, the hats he wears, the most are speaker and author. He's widely known for two documentaries, The Surprise Wedding and Chasing Failure. Ryan splits most of his time between speaking in churches and in corporate America. He gets the opportunity to inspire and train thousands upon thousands of people across America and the world through his messages, his keynotes, his workshops, and seminars. Ryan and his beautiful family reside in Dallas, Texas. Welcome to the show, Ryan.
Oh, it is an honor to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, the honor is mine completely. You know, I've read your bio, was introduced through a mutual friend, and you have the accolades. You spoke around the world. You are a top-notch speaker. There's no doubt about that. But if we put aside your bio and all the accolades, who is Ryan Leak? Who is he?
I'm just a dude, you know. I'm just an everyday husband, an everyday father, businessman, speaker, minister, hooper. I love playing basketball, and I just wake up every day and try to add value to people's lives.
Try to add values to people's lives. Just an everyday person.
I'm just an everyday person. That's super chill. Yeah.
Well, I think other people would say others when they see you on the stages of Potter's House and so many mega churches across the United States. But
okay, so this is funny. And I'm big on being, authentic and real and all that stuff. So what's so funny is I remember speaking at like one of my first Fortune 500 companies, and I get introduced as the guy that was featured on Oprah. And I was like, Oprah? It was Queen Latifah. Now, no disrespect to the Queen, but hopping on a stage with Oprah expectations versus Queen Latifah expectations is just funny. And so I got introduced on one of the things that you and I were on as somebody that was a teaching pastor at the Potter's House. I have never spoken at the Potter's House. I don't know Bishop James. And I'm always like, I never know when to correct people. But again, that's why I say yes, I have spoken at some very, very large churches and whatnot. But the Potter's House specifically is not one of them.
So TD Jakes doesn't have you on his cell phone, and Ryan,
Not
I can't make it this Sunday. Can you come and teach?
Not TD. Some others, but TD isn't one of them. But I've been blessed to minister to in some really, really cool places.
You're absolutely right, and that's why we always need to check our references, because I did hear you introduced that way in our shared space.
Yes, you did, and I didn't. And I was just like, yeah, whatever, yeah, let's keep rolling. So.
We're speaking it into existence.
Yeah.
But one of the things that we were looking forward to really talking to you about is chasing failure. And
Yeah.
when I heard the title Chasing Failure, a lot of different things came to mind before I actually heard you speak. Tell
Okay.
us, for those that have not read the book yet, that
Yeah.
they're just now being introduced to Ryan Leake, what does that mean, chasing failure?
Well, I think whenever I'm big on behind the scenes. I'm big on understanding what went into the ingredients of how people became successful. And what I found, whenever I studied successful people, whenever I sat with successful people, I realized one of the key ingredients that helped them become who they are, is failure. And I'm like, they just got it at inconvenient times. And I thought, if we could get that early, we could learn the lessons we need to be successful. And so when I encourage people to chase failure, I don't encourage them to chase foolishness. I encourage them to embrace failure, embrace risk taking, embrace. Sometimes you make mistakes. I make mistakes every single week. I drop balls, and so does everybody. It's just that most of us spend a great deal of energy trying to hide our flaws. I like to say we like to post our best and hide the rest. And I've just decided to kind of start this new line of just going, no, I share my failures on a weekly basis. And what I'm finding is happening is people admire perfection from a distance, but they can't relate to it because they know their real life. You know your real life. I know my real life. And so behind the lights, the camera, and the action are real people with real challenges that have real failures. And so I just come just as I am. So if I'm winning, I'll tell you I'm winning. And if I'm losing, I'll tell you I'm losing. But I no longer feel the ups and downs of wins and losses. I don't feel oh my gosh, my brand is on the line right now with this post. Oh no, what am I going to do? No, I'm just going to post. Now, I'm not going to do it foolishly. I'm going to be sensitive to the times, but I'm also not. I'm okay with failing. I'm okay with risk taking, and I have found that mode has brought me more success than anything I've ever done. And so, and I think it's just embracing failures and owning it. So that's the heart behind chasing failure.
So really, to be authentic, to embrace all of our truth
Oh
and
my gosh.
hide nothing. Was you don't hide nothing, you don't have to look around the corner.
You have nothing to hide. You're not afraid of someone finding out a different story about you. And so I'm very forthright with, I spoke for a very, very, very large production company. And again, I'm not going to name drop, but everyone watching this would know who this production company is out of California. I spoke for them on Friday. I had 8 points. Point number 2 was missing from my slide deck. And I didn't realize that until I was in the middle of the presentation. You want to know what that's called? Life. That's what it's called. It's called life, ladies and gentlemen. Mistakes happen. How did it happen? Did I accidentally skip over it? But in the middle of talking, going to my next slide, I'm thinking, we're on point number 3, but I haven't actually told them what point number 3 is. And there were 8 points. Now, again, they're like, slam dunk. Great job. It was awesome. But in my mind, I'm thinking, you failed. You made mistakes. And so I think some people think, I will go to the next level when I become flawless. I will write that book once it's perfect. I will start that. I will. And so you have all of these intentions of being greater later once you got your stuff together. And it's like, yeah, I got my stuff together, but I'm always creating new content. And so I can't tell you how many times I've been in the middle of a presentation and I've discovered a typo as I'm delivering. Like, I'll be looking at the screen, like, that ain't spelled right. And I'll just like, And in that moment, it's like, and again, it was triple checked. It was, and spoiler alert, it's funny. In the book, I talk about typo. I have a whole chapter on typos. And I don't know, 20, 30 people, reviewed the book, edited it, critiqued it, all of that stuff. While doing the audio version of the book, I found 2 typos. I was livid until I then looked at the cover of the book and I went, this is life. It happens. And so if you're looking for a perfect person, I'm not him. If you're looking for a perfect speaker, I've never met that person. And I'm definitely not it. And so am I trying to be the best that I possibly can be every single day? Absolutely. But the reality is mistakes happen. And I learned from my mistakes. I was speaking for one of the largest financial institutions in the country, and my sound was off for 50 minutes. It was at a whisper. They were like this the whole time. They're like, you had great energy. And I'm just going, oh my gosh. Well, again, we're all trying to navigate this digital world. I mean, let's just be honest for just a moment. This is our second take. Why?
Yes.
Because technology happens. So no one sees our failed one. They just see this one. And that's what we do in business all the time. We're presenting our best and nobody knows the backstory. I've just started this mantra now of just going, let's tell the backstory, because that encourages people, because people will have the moment that we had a few weeks ago where internet's malfunctioning, it's glitchy, it's this, it's that. And then they'll conclude, I can't do this. And I'm going, no, you can. It's technology. It's wavelengths. It's code. It's a website. These things happen to all sorts of people. How many of us have ever been trying to get on an airline's website and it wasn't working? Are we saying they're not a legit airline because their website wasn't working? No, it's called technology and things happen. And so I think we've got to be able to embrace that, because what I see happening so much in the American workforce is so many people allow the fear of failure to stall them, to say, well, I'm just not going to do anything. I'm just like, well, no, let's make sure that we keep moving forward.
And you certainly embody that, as we were pre-recording, we normally record live, and I was telling you, I'm like, oh, this has never happened before. And you called and you're calm, cool, collected, and just having a conversation. And here I am, my anxiety was high, like trying to get you
That's
scheduled.
life.
So you embody
life.
everything that you are sharing. And what also came to mind when I read Chasing Failure, there's a couple of things that came to me personally. Remember in high school, so I ran track, Ryan, and there was a meet, and my coach had last minute asked me to come run the 100-meter hurdle. And
Okay.
me at the time, being a people pleaser, said yes. In the back of my mind, I'm thinking, when's the last time I practiced running over a hurdle? But I normally do the 400-meter run. I did discus. I did all these other things. So I said yes. So we're in the middle of this meet. Guns go off, and I jump over the first hurdle. I fall to the ground. I jump over the second hurdle. I fall to the ground. And I did not want to get up in that second. But they're yelling and screaming at me, go get up, right? They really wanted me just to finish
Wow.
to get the score. But I was so embarrassed and humiliated.
Yeah.
But one of the greatest life lessons that I learned goes right back to that moment about preparation, right? And
Yeah.
then, what brings me back to last week, I was in New York City and I was meeting with some investors, and they have multi-millions of dollars, and we're having conversations, and in these conversations they failed more than so we see, or what I was seeing was the success, generations changed and being able to invest in all these things. So I saw the arrival, but when I was in communication with this person, they had a lot of failures, and including
Absolutely.
a divorce that had made them a catalyst that said, you know what, I got to get my own money. And now exceeding her own expectations and now investing in so many
Absolutely.
other people. So most people that we would see as being successful have had pain points that have led them to the places that we see. So share with us, Ryan, what are some of your greatest life pain points that were the fuel to writing Chasing Failure?
Well, I think there were a few, there's been a few, and thanks for sharing that too, because I think there a lot of people have some of those like catalyst moments that propel them forward. I think for me, I felt my whole life, um, I say in the book about, God has a plan for your life and so do other people. I think at some point I felt the overall weight of my community's plan for my life. Ryan, you would be great at this. Oh, Ryan, if you would just do this, oh, it'd be awesome. And I felt that like, y'all want me to be something that I'm not, and the goals that you have for my life, well, my goals are much greater than that. And so I almost felt like people were putting a ceiling on my potential and thought, man, you would be great at this, and I would like for you to be that. And I'm thinking to myself, well, I wouldn't like being that person. And so part of what kind of gave me a little bit of fuel to do what I do now is to kind of write my own course a little bit. And one of the things I've just had to wrestle with and really come to grips with, I pave the way for other people, which means most of my life, I will have a shovel in my hand and I'll be digging, paving a way for somebody else. And so there's not a whole lot of other people that have gone down the path that I've gone. And so there's not a whole lot of people that I have to be able to reach out to. Most days I wake up with a shovel and I have to figure some things out. And so for me, that's where a lot of my fuel comes from, in the sense of going, I'm not going to let someone else's, I tell the story in the book about Andre Agassi. It's amazing. It wasn't until we read his biography in, the late 2000s that we're like, this dude didn't like tennis. That's crazy. His dad liked tennis. And I just thought, man, I don't ever want to wake up living out somebody else's dream. I can't tell you how many stay-at-home moms I've talked to who somebody will look at them and say, you are living the dream. And they'll be like, whose dream? Who said this is what every woman wants? It's not what I want. And so sometimes we can just kind of copy and paste. Oh, it would be great if you could be with somebody and you could just stay home. It's like, well, who says I want to stay home? Maybe I like going to work. Maybe I like putting my hands to do something. Maybe, who knows? And so I think we just can't ever put people in a box. And I felt like I was in a box for a long time and I had to get out the box.
I hear the box. I think about one of my mentors. He says, we wake up in a box. We grab the box, then we drive a box, right?
Yeah.
And so constantly being put in a box and breaking free out of that. Another person who I was in their space last week, Danielle Delgado, and she said, the importance of us we have to get clear on who we are and who we want to be, so we don't quit. Get clear so we don't quit. And I think about that. And to your point, to so many people, we follow a path already set for us. We go to college, we get a job, we get married, we have kids, and follow this path and not really discovering our purpose. And those are those pain points that I look back in my own life as I was sitting and talking to these investors last week, that it was these pain points that turned to their own purpose. And that's where the discovery of who we are and God's specific, unique, extraordinary purpose for all of our life. And it's not necessarily subscribed to your point in the story of someone's father's dream, or my mom went to this college, so I need to join this sorority, right? To really get clear on who we need to be. So I think it's a lot of people resonate with that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So, you share that when we are honest, the biggest reason we don't pursue our dreams is exactly what we're talking about, is because the distance between our dreams and our realities is often intimidating. Help us break this down for us. So for those that are listening or watching us, what does this look like in people's life, practically speaking?
Well, dreaming's free. It doesn't cost anything to have a dream, to have an idea, to have a goal. But The minute you find out you have to have a website, you're like, I don't know how to build a website. And you mean I got to spend money for that? Wait a second, like that's, or I could learn to do it myself. That's intimidating. Now, restaurants, we love to eat at them, but somebody put in some work to make that happen. I was sitting with a guy yesterday who is considering opening up a Mexican restaurant. I said, how much would you need? He's like, 150,000. I said, what would 150,000 do for you? And he starts going through the list of the vent hood that you would need to have that's restaurant grade, staffing, he just starts going through the whole deal. Well, most people would just go, man, it would be really nice to have this kind of restaurant, Italian, in my neighborhood. And that's about where it stops, because to do all of the other things is going, these are all a bunch of opportunities for me to fail. These are a bunch of reasons where it can go, well, this is why it's not going to work out. And so most people, they keep their dreams on the shelf. They don't even like even the exploration of it is exhausting for them to figure out. And so it's funny, even working with my publisher and marketing teams, they'll be like, man, we've never worked with an author that's as creative as you, or that can build their own website, or that can, and I'm going, yeah, because I've been standing in line a long time. And I had to figure some of this stuff out. So would I say, yeah, I'll build your website? No, I know how to build mine. And I've stayed up late. I've gone on YouTube. I've figured out some graphic design. I've figured out enough to go, hey, I'm going, this is what it takes for me to go to that next level. And so for me, I've just had to make that decision of like, hey, all right, I get that it's intimidating, but I am not afraid to fail. I'm not afraid to try things. I'm not afraid to get it wrong. I'd rather get it wrong than to not. I'd rather miss the shot than to not play. I want to be in the game. That's just the way that I see it. So I think practically for people, I just try to tell them, hey, you just need to figure out that next step. Some people won't even go on GoDaddy and figure out if their website URL exists, let alone build a website. I go, well, don't put the cart before the horse. Like, just take the next step.
Next step, the next move.
Mm-hmm.
So being so transparent and authentic as you are, when's the last time that you tried something new and then you realized,
Well, I gave you one I gave you a failure from Friday. I gave you a failure from about a month ago. Something new that I'm really looking into. I haven't failed yet, because part of what I teach is failing smart and doing homework before you just dive into things. Again, this isn't chasing foolishness; it's chasing failure. So part of what will become a part of my brand in the future will be e-courses and giving people an opportunity to take an online course. So we're in the research phase of that, of being able to say, all right, let me make sure that whatever it is that we're going to put out is adding enough value that people would want to pay hundreds of dollars to take that course. And so we're just trying to be really wise with that. But I guarantee you, lots of failures will come along with that. Another thing recently, again, this is very transparent. This is very vulnerable with the book. Being a published author with Thomas Nelson, whenever you have a book coming out, you're obviously trying to hit some sort of list. New York Times, USA Today, Wall Street Journal. You're trying to win. This is how these things are measured. Well, someone, which again, I'm not going to find out today who this person was, but my book was earmarked and coded in the wrong category. So I sold enough books to hit the Wall Street Journal bestseller list as number 3 2 weeks in a row. But because what's called a BISAC, because it was coded incorrectly, I missed the list. And I did hit USA Today, but again, for a category that the book's actually not. So it was technically in the wrong category, and it was in the wrong category on Amazon. So I learned some valuable lessons even just through that process. And, I think we did a really great job marketing the book, and we learned a lot even within that. But ultimately, we did not hit our goal.
And as you're saying that, Ryan, I could feel the knots in my stomach, putting
man.
myself in the moment of you finding out. How did you take care of yourself in that moment of finding that out? It's almost like losing or failing a test and you're just 2 points away. That's kind of that feeling that I got as you're talking about that.
Well, a couple of things. Yeah, one, I was very frustrated. I was very, very upset. But then again, I keep looking back at the title of the book and thinking, okay, you aimed for New York Times and you landed on USA Today. How many authors do you know that have landed on USA Today's bestseller list? And so it's just perspective. And that's the point, is you stretch yourself. You're shooting for the moon, you land on a star, and then you're complaining from a star that you're not on the moon while everyone else is on Earth. So on some level, you're pushing yourself, and we fell short of a goal. The other thing that I was reminded of, and I just felt the Lord tell me this: how did you get where you are? How did you get where you are? Are we talking right now because I'm a New York Times bestselling author? Has any organization ever booked me to speak because I'm a New York Times bestselling author? Has anything good happened in my life because I'm a New York Times bestselling author? Not one of them. Not one. And so there was just this piece in me of going, what did you think it would do for you? And I felt this even from the Lord. What did you think that would do for you that I haven't already done for you and given you favor? If you just keep your integrity and you do the right thing for the right reason, and you keep adding value to people, I'll take care of your path. I'll take care of your clients. I'll take care of your future opportunities. And so that's how I kept my cool. And that's where I got my peace.
It was frustrating, and being able to feel all the feelings, but being able to know that what God has for you, he has for you, and taking that time to tune into that. And you're right. You're right in the sense that, one of my mentors, I could probably tell I have a lot of mentors. Paul Brunson once told me that when we are truly running our own race, right, truly running our own race in that marathon, put accolades aside and speaking engagements aside, followers aside, because people pay for that, right? They try to sprint to the race. But when you're truly running your own race, what God has for you, it'll always find you. Sometimes it's not in our timing. So, you're absolutely right. And I appreciate that vulnerability, because I think it set somebody free today. So
absolutely.
We are here with Let's Talk About It with Janie Lacy, and we'll be right back with Ryan Lake right after the break.
Are you often attracted to unavailable partners? Feel like you can't stay but can't leave a toxic relationship? Obsessed with thinking about a current or former lover? Feel resentful that you're always taking care of the other person? The Woman Redeemed Therapy Program is for women who want to break free from toxic relationship patterns so they can find the love they truly deserve. This program is a safe, nurturing environment essential for building self-worth and acquiring the tools to work through challenges and create your best self. We invite you to begin the journey today to start building the new you. Call 407-622-1770 or visit lifecounselingsolutions.com. That's lifecounselingsolutions.com. You are listening to Let's Talk About It with Dr. Janie Lacy. To reach the show today, please call into 1-888-346-9141. That's 1-888-346-9141. You may also send an email to Janie at lifecounselingsolutions.com. Now back to Let's Talk About It.
Welcome back to Let's Talk About It with Janie Lacy. We are here with Ryan Lake discussing chasing failure. So, Ryan, welcome back to the show.
Yep, glad to be back.
As I'm thinking through our conversation, everything negative we talk about just in life, the pressures, the challenges, you talk in Chasing Failure about it's an opportunity for us to rise. And that really resonated with me. And you talked about your lifelong hero, Kobe Bryant, in the book so eloquently, which I really tuned into that example. So talk to us about the self-talk leading up to meeting Kobe and what you
Hmm.
learned as you reflect back on that time period.
It's I was so young. I was just so young. Uh, and I remember getting ready to meet Kobe. I just, I was like, I can't believe that I even get an opportunity to do that. It's weird. Hindsight is very, very interesting on that. Working with quite a few NBA players today on a regular basis, it's like, it's just different. It's like, but at the same time, it never feels normal to me because I'm a basketball guy. So it's just like, if I'm talking to a guy and then he's about to play, it's like, dude, I just saw you, like your ESPN top 10 and we're on the phone. Like that's weird to me. And so to think about the fact that at that time I got to meet like an all-time great, and now that he's passed, it makes it even like it really just kind of throws off your equilibrium a little bit, just even thinking about it. But getting ready to meet him, I just really wanted to soak it all in and enjoy the moment, um and just meet the man. I've seen him play so many times, but never had an opportunity to talk with him. But he was just so gracious, very um, focused. He was an intense individual. Like he was like this the whole time. Not mean, engaged, like hanging on every word. Um, and I just thought, I understand why he's good at what he does, because he takes it seriously. I mean, he was a next level person. Here's what most people don't, and this is what I really learned about true greatness at that level. For 20 years of his life, he played professional basketball once every 3 days. Actual game. That's not practice. That's not pickup. Like he played 100 nights a year. 100 nights a year. So I play college ball. We would play 30 games a year. And at the end of the season, I'm like, I'm not touching a basketball I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I can't feel my legs. I just like 100 games a year of just the games. And then after either losing or winning, to sit in front of the media and get a microphone and have to answer their questions, knowing your mood, knowing your game will be criticized by thousands of people. And then also seeing how he was off the court in a room full of people. At first, it was just me, him, and my wife. And then the other VIPs for the evening started to kind of fall in. And I thought, and now he still has to be on. So he has to do this 100 times a year for 20 years. And so I'm not a LeBron James like fan, like he's somebody that like I root against, but he's somebody, I don't know that I have more respect for another athlete than LeBron, because thinking about what it takes to be great and what he puts into the game and what he does off the court and what he does for culture and what he does for his family and movies. And, a bunch of people are critiquing Space Jam too. And it's like, my son watches it every day and is inspired by it. And it's like, just thinking about all that he does besides playing 100 games of basketball. And it's like, so when I talk to young athletes or young businessmen, young businesswomen, I'm like, you ain't just got to have a good business idea. You don't just got to be good at basketball. You got to be good at some other things. You've got to have some people skills, because there are plenty of athletic people who are not in the NBA because they couldn't do all of the other stuff. And that's what LeBron has mastered. He has mastered how to speak to the media. I hope he does a master class when it's all over on just media. I would just love to pick his brain of what he has figured out and just mastered in that way, because it's a very, very tough thing, knowing what words will be headlines versus what words won't be. And just, so the question I pose in the book is, whenever you see someone great, you should ask the question, what does it cost to be you? And that's what I think.
So then when you answer that question, what does it cost to be Ryan Leak? What do you say?
I had a friend that traveled with me for a weekend, and he said, I did not know what it cost to be until he actually really traveled with me and saw all that kind of goes into. And it was so funny. He was like, man, I'm on the plane with you going to Houston to preach. And he said, and you're writing a corporate talk on the way to preach. So then you land, and then you've got your routine, and then you go in there and you meet this person, and you just, what it takes, and then I do that talk 3 times, and he was there for all of it. And he goes, you change something every time. But most people only hear the third one and go, man, that was great. Yeah, you didn't hear the failures in the first 2, because I was learning every single time. And then we're riding back, and he falls asleep, and I'm working on a different corporate talk. Well, the reason I did all of that in one weekend is so that on Monday, I could be with my kids. So I don't have to work the next day. And he's just like, dude. And it's not that I'm always working. He's just like, how you manage all of that is interesting. And so I'm very, very fortunate and blessed to have the opportunities that I do. But yesterday I was done at 2:00. But because of weather in Dallas, I didn't get home to 1:30 a.m. And so that's part of it. And constantly creating content to add value to other people is not easy. It takes great dedication and a willingness to receive feedback from others that says, hey, this is where you missed the mark. Here's some things that I would add. And so I'm grateful for my team and the people that I have in my life. But even just thinking through social media, we have a LinkedIn plan, we have a YouTube plan, we have a Facebook plan, we have a Twitter plan, we have an Instagram plan. People just go, dude, your social media looks awesome, but they don't know there's a strategy for all of them. And so we create specific content just for LinkedIn, and we create specific content just for IGTV, and understanding what is a 60-second clip versus a minute 15-second clip versus a 90-second clip versus a more than 3-minute clips do better on Facebook, and Twitter is 20 seconds, and then TikTok. And so understanding all of those things and directing all of that content. And so, being in Chicago this past weekend, I preached 4 times. I wrote 4 sermons in, I think, 2 days, 2 corporate talks. And then I have to sit with the social guy there and say, okay, here's how we're going to take what we just did in 60 minutes and turn it into 45 seconds that someone can absorb on the internet. So then I have to comb through every single file that he sends me from every service and actually pick clips and points in the message to say, okay, this is the story we want to tell. Well, if someone follows me on Instagram, they go, dude, video's great. Yeah, but you don't know what it costs to do. And then I have to pay that person to make that. And then you have to pay another person to manage it and curate it and put it. And so, so that's just a little bit of what it costs to be me.
Well,
I guess. Did I answer your question?
I think
Did I give you behind the scenes?
I think you more than answered behind the scenes. And what
Yeah.
came to mind was recently having this conversation with someone, and she said to me that, Janie, I really don't like motivation and inspiration, right? Because I'm part of a crew that, motivation, inspiration. And I'm like, why? And I respect her, very successful person, friends with Oprah, I mean, successful person. And she said, because, and you just embodied this example, because not everybody's willing to do the work. So you can get motivation and inspiration and you can feel good, but how many people are going to sacrifice? How many people are going to really put in the work to create the life they want to live? Right? So you can
Absolutely.
motivate and you can inspire people all day long, but when it comes down to the practical, the strategy, the tactical, how many people are going to put in the work? And what you just gave us the behind the scenes is you putting in the work to be able to have the time with your kids, to be able to have them build the life that you want. And not
Absolutely.
everyone's willing to do that.
Oh, absolutely. I think execution is huge. And if you can't execute, you're just an innovative person that doesn't do anything. Execution's everything. And so I think I just try to remove as many distractions as I possibly can. A lot of people got a lot of goals and things they think I should be. I think of things like a goal I haven't shared with anybody publicly. So I'm giving you the good stuff. Okay. I'm trying to pay off my house over the next year. So for me, it's like, I don't really care what your agenda is. It's like, for me, I have these big audacious goals, so for me, it's like by the time I turn 36, I'm not going to have a mortgage. Like that's just how I think. And so your goal for me is never going to be that. So I've got to have my own goals that keep me going, because your goals won't even be enough to get me out of bed. And so anyways, I just, so I just have fun with that. But there's no way that that's going to happen if you don't execute, get out of bed and do what you got to do.
Well, you said it. Execution is everything. You got to plant those roots so that you can get that fruit. And the fruit would be a completely free home ownership. And,
Oh, yeah.
And that's a greatest gift. And then I'm going to pivot here a little bit, Ryan. In your chapter, Reframing Failure, we're kind of talking about this a little bit, kind of leads me right there, is you discuss how chasing failure was taking you on a journey from dreaming to living. And I think a lot of times we can all relate to that, but you got to read the book.
Yeah.
But what can you share from your experience to that person who is now in middle life and they look back with so much regret? How can that person reframe what we can reflect as failure, right? Because working
Yeah.
with lots of people, they will point to, and I usually will get this, anywhere from, I'll say from 40 to 75, right, is one of my oldest clients right now. And they'll reflect back and they'll point to their age. They're like, oh, but Janie, I'm 70, or Janie, I'm 60. My window has passed, and they focus so much on what was missed and the failure or what they would do over. So what would you say to them in helping them reframe failure?
I think the only failure a person has is failing to learn from their failures. If you are failing to learn from your failures, then yes, that is a failure. But if you are taking really good notes, that's not a failure. You learned something. You got an education that you could not get at any school. And so I'll talk to a lot of leaders that will share an idea in a meeting and it'll get rejected and they'll get really down about it. And I'll go, they didn't teach that to you in business school? You didn't take rejection 101? Pick up your pants and learn from that rejection. Why? Why was it rejected? Now you need to learn the kind of ideas that people love. The kind of ideas that people love. One, they love ideas that make them look good. So if you're presenting an idea that's going to make somebody else look good, they're naturally going to go, because most of us are egocentric. It is what it is. Most people are narcissistic. Not that they have narcissism, but like a full case of it. But most people see themselves as the center of the universe. So if you present something that makes them that, it's more likely going to succeed. People also love ideas that make them money. Did your idea do that? Why was it rejected? Was it about you or did you make it about them? You just got an opportunity to learn something that nobody else in the organization was even willing to learn. Now, I like to learn from other people's mistakes more than my own. So I love watching people present an idea and I go, why didn't that work? And then I learn from it. So I like learning from other people's failures as much as my own. But I think you've always got to be taking notes. You've always, and that's a different, that I think some people see failure as the arch enemy of their success. I think it's a part of your success. It's not the villain. It can actually help you if you will let it. And there's just so many times where I just see people get down on their past mistakes and I've made so many, I'm starting to forget them. And so, but I'm still moving forward. Our business has done better than it's ever done, ever. I'm the best year we've ever had. And I contribute that to a lot of things. But one of those things is we've just been taking risks. We try stuff. Some stuff goes well, some stuff doesn't. We put together clips that don't get much traction at all. We put together some clips that I thought were mediocre, got 100,000 views. You're like, what in the world? It makes sense. And so what are we learning? We're learning what resonates with people the most. So for example, I was talking to the owners of BibleGateway.com. Did you know the number one word searched on their website is the word anxiety?
Oh, interesting.
So again, you're learning what are people dealing with? And so, but the only way to know that is to try some stuff. And so I just don't think failure is as bad as people think it is. And it's a part of life.
It certainly is a part of life. That saying that, life is not happening to us, it's happening for us. Ryan, I remember this in, I don't know, it was probably in my early 20s. And I was applied for an executive secretary position. And we had to take a typing test. And I was an old school head. I didn't learn how to type, until I had to. And I failed that typing test literally 8 times. And I was in a department where they were waiting for me to pass this test to go to another department. So my failures, quote unquote, was being viewed by everyone. Well, did you pass that test? They kept knowing when I was going to pass that test. In that moment, again, I have all these moments of humiliation. But later on, the greatest lesson that I learned from that was probably about, I don't know, maybe 15 years after that situation happened. I was presenting at a center here in the Orlando, Florida area. And I had a table. At this point, I'm now a business owner. I've now moved on, done other things in life. And I had a table where my staff was at, and they had called me over and they said that there was somebody there that wanted to talk to me, the owner, about potentially working for us. And when I looked at this person, it was like God gave me the skies to open up in that moment, Ryan. I think you know where I'm going. So this person didn't recognize me because I had a different last name at this time, and they didn't recognize me. I just looked different. And the moment went back to that person was one that was condescending and taunting and all this other stuff when I could
Mm,
not pass that typing test. So in this
mm,
moment, the gift of giving this person more grace than they deserved was letting them know that I would keep their resume on file. So I'm so I'm saying all that to say is that in that moment of humiliation, being taunted by this person who was in an executive position, when I'm trying to work my way through school, being executive secretary, years down the line, was asking me for a job. And the
mm.
greatest lesson I had to reframe, because that bothered me
Wow.
for years. We have these things that for other people may be small, but that was one of those things that really bothered me because I was being
Mm,
watched as I kept failing. And I'm doing everything I can and juggling and trying to pass this typing
mm,
test. And I couldn't do it. And this was just somebody I felt like just was not treating me well. And I had this moment, Ryan, where I could have not treated them well.
mm, mm.
But I gave them more grace than I deserve. And when I think about reframing failure, sometimes things in those moments I believe had happened to us so that when we are moving along life, that we also are learning about character because I treat people very well,
Mhm.
right? No matter
Yep.
what position they're in, because I
Got
know
to.
how I was treated when I was in that position. That
Yep.
leads me right into your never give up ish chapter. And because obviously I'm a psychologist and you discuss, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. With the addition of your transcendence, talk to us, how can we all get there and what it takes?
So I think what is, you know, whenever you're thinking about should I do something, should I not? I think, never give up is one of my favorite chapters because it's what I'm supposed to say. I'm supposed to tell everybody to never give up. And I'm like, no, I think you need to be smart. I think you need to, and that's where we kind of came up with this rubric, so to speak, to kind of take people through. The first thing is, how do you know if you should move forward with something? Number one, are you passionate about it? If you're not passionate about it, everyone's going to feel that. This is something you love, is not something you love. That's the first thing. Second thing is, are you good at it? I say in the book, passion is verified by you. Skill set is verified by others. Do other people besides your mother tell you you're good at this? Like there needs to be some sort of verification process. Thirdly, are you being given any opportunity to do that thing that you love and are good at? Do you need to create an opportunity? I had a friend say, man, I want to start a leadership conference. Is anybody asking you to start a leadership conference? Why you? What are other people saying? Man, you're just a great leader. I know you like it, but is that you're going to create an opportunity? But where is this verification kind of coming from? This is something you just simply want to improve on. Great, but you've got to pay attention to the signs there. And the last thing is, is there purpose? You feel like God put you on the planet to do it. And I think whenever you find yourself in front of something that you're passionate about, that you're good at, that you're being given an opportunity to do, and you feel like God put you on the planet to do it, I think that's a sweet spot. If all four of those boxes aren't checked, that does not mean you're not in a good spot. I call it the sweet spot matrix. Keyword there is sweet. Okay. It doesn't mean you're in a bad spot if you don't have all four of those boxes checked. And notice the box that I don't have in the sweet spot matrix is getting paid for it. That's a sweet spot. But I know some people that operate in their sweet spot in an area and they do it for free. They volunteer in children's ministry. They love it. They're good at it. They're given an opportunity to do it. And they feel like God has put them on the planet to do it. And every single weekend they get an opportunity to live in their sweet spot. And so I guess it would be a double sweet spot if you were paid money to do that too. So
Double sweet spot. Exactly.
yeah.
So your son, Jackson,
Yeah.
he's 35 years old now, and he's getting his mental health checkup.
Uh-huh.
And he finds a safe place in America's favorite psychotherapist's office.
Right.
So she asked him, as she asked many clients, about his childhood.
Yeah.
And she asked him to reflect on who his
Yeah.
father was to him, especially in his younger years. What does
Yeah.
he say?
It's a great question. You know, I would say my family is pretty confused about what I even do for a living. I asked my son the other day, what do you think Dad does? He said, you're a church man and a basketball player. Because he sees me working with NBA players. He sees me play basketball a lot. One time we were going to a game and I said, Daddy works for the team. He goes, oh, that's cool. But he's so young. He doesn't fully understand. And now he tells people my dad helps people. And I think, yeah, let's stick with that one. Because no matter what I'm doing, he's trying to help people. And so I hope he grows up to help people. He might sell insurance. I don't know. He might start a business, might be a pastor, might be a musician. I just pray that whatever he does, he has a spirit that helps people.
Watches dad help others and having that imprint on him that he will continue to pay that forward and building your legacy.
Yeah.
Well, we certainly appreciate you joining us today, Ryan
Yes.
Leaks. Where can people find you if they want to follow your journey, keep in touch with you? You talked about all these strategies of all these different social media.
RyanLeak.com. RyanLeak.com. It's that simple.
Okay. And quickly, what's next for you, Ryan?
Book number 2.
All right.
Book number 2.
We will watch out for book number 2. But
That's
if you
awesome.
haven't purchased book number 1, Chasing Failure, do so today, now. So in the words of our special guest, become today who you intend to be tomorrow. What are you actually waiting for to start changing your life? Until next time, this is your host, Dr. Janie Lacy.
Thank you for tuning in. Let's Talk About It can be heard live every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific Time and 8 p.m. Eastern Time on the Voice America Empowerment Channel. Please join your host, Dr. Janie Lacy, for another edition of the show next week.